Kevin Durant became easily the biggest story of this year's offseason when he formally asked for a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. And among the many discussions that this has caused, one of the biggest ones is just simply what would be the best and most interesting spot for Kevin Durant to end up at. Everyone has their best trade package or their best team, but today I want to focus on the best team in terms of just purely a fun and narrative factor. Him going to this team would both cause a lot of really fun to watch basketball, and it would be a really storybook type of thing. And of course, the team that I'm referring to is the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in the YouTube algorithm, how the video performs, all that. Yeah, just subscribe to the channel, man. It's not that fucking difficult. You know, provided you enjoy the video. If I suck, then don't. You know, it's fair. Now, before I actually jump into the basketball side and the narrative side of this discussion, which is what I did indicate in the intro were the biggest factors here, I want to make sure that does not undercut the fact that the Thunder do in fact have a really good trade package for Kevin Durant if they so choose, and they also are a good team for him to end up on, like among the best options overall roster-wise because of the limitless possibilities due to their first-round picks. But before we actually get to that, let's first start with what the trade package for Kevin Durant would look like. And to put it simply, it's pretty much going to be Chet Holmgren, Josh Giddey, and whatever barrage of first-round picks is necessary. Now, I understand the hype of Chet followed by immediately trading him is going to be a bit of a bummer, but it would ultimately be worth it. I would compare it to, on even a larger scale, the Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love trade. This one's an even bigger trade than that, but it's kind of the same principle. We got this really cool prospect, but we're trying to win now, so we're going to trade for Kevin Love. Obviously, Kevin Love was expected to be a lot better in Cleveland than he was, so that's a factor here. But as sad as it would be to see Chet Holmgren go, it would ultimately be worth it because you immediately become a contender with this move. Like, as long as you just have basic competence following it. First of all, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is good enough to be the second option on a contender. Anyone who has really paid attention to the guy would tell you that. I don't think he's quite on a Booker or Mitchell level, though there are those that actually believe that, but I don't think he's actually that far below them, just a slight step. So already KD has his co-star, and I believe one that will play off of Durant fairly well. Durant has a past where he likes his secondary player to be a ball handler, and that makes sense because Kevin Durant's not always necessarily the best ball handler in the world. But for real, like Russell Westbrook, Stephen Curry, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai is actually probably the worst player listed there, but still it's the same principle. After that, you have two really good role players in Lou Dort as well as Kendrick Williams, and you have a treasure chest of assets to trade away. Guys like Pokuševski, Aaron Wiggins, and especially Trey Mann could get you some pretty good role players back. But after that, really, it's your pick of role players that you can trade for around the league. And the first thing I'm doing is I am calling up the Utah Jazz because, as mentioned in my Jazz video, they have 1 million role players to sell right now. I would trade probably like 3, maybe 4 first-round picks, and I'll take back Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverley, and Bojan Bogdanovic. Then I'm going to call up the Indiana Pacers or the San Antonio Spurs, and I'll take Miles Turner or Jakob Poeltl for, let's say, 2 pretty good first-round picks. Ideally, I would take Miles because of the ability to space the floor, even though that aspect of his game is often overrated. But either way, that's 2 great defensive centers that you can get for a fairly cheap asking price and fill out your starting lineup. Then we have a starting lineup of Patrick Beverley, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Bojan Bogdanovic, who serves just fine as a third option, Kevin Durant and Miles Turner, with Jared Vanderbilt, Lou Dort, and Kendrick Williams off of the bench. And hell, if you believe Trey Mann's like trying to make some sort of leap, you could actually hold on to him. Or again, you could trade him in one of these moves, whatever is necessary. This roster is a contender for sure. And just to be clear, this is me throwing ideas out there like really rapidly. I'm not even really taking my time trying to piece together the best possible team with the assets that OKC has. And given more thought and not just farting out a trade, the Thunder could make a roster even better than what I just mentioned. And what I just mentioned, I already think is a contender. So they have serious potential to be a really good team through their assets. Even through these trade scenarios that I just mentioned, they still have multiple first-round picks remaining outside of their own. So there's definitely big trade potential still available. Hell, they could trade for a third star if they really wanted to. I am personally of the belief that third stars are almost always a sham unless it is a player like Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, who's essentially a role player who just so happens to be a star level player. Like Klay Thompson's a shooter, like a movement and spot shooter, but he's so damn good that he's a star level player. Draymond Green, similar principle, right? But guys who really need the ball in their hands, guys who really need to score, guys who really care about their own numbers, I don't think it's good to have more than two of those players on one team. I have a whole video I made way back in the day. I don't remember how good it is, but it's called the third star problem because I have a problem with third stars personally. But hey, in terms of enticing Kevin Durant to go to OKC, he's someone who would probably be interested in a third star. So letting him know, hey, dude, we could definitely still trade for another star player if one becomes available, certainly would entice him to ask to go to OKC. Either way, the point I'm trying to arrive to is OKC can really make this thing happen if they wanted to. And honestly, I think the only reason that they haven't is because they aren't exactly thrilled to go through with this idea. And I can kind of understand why, but ultimately do think it's a bad decision to go down the path that I think they're deciding to over this one. Like Sam Presti has just spent years trying to recover from Kevin Durant's departure. Just for him to accumulate the assets to bring him back, I could see emotions interfering in that equation. And more importantly, I could also see a world where holding out for later pays dividends. Usually, I would say like, dude, it's Kevin Durant, go for it. But in a case like OKC with the assets that they have, honestly, like maybe Luka's available in 4 years. I don't know. Like it's a little bit more of a stretch, but I could see a world where they're really like, we'd rather be good 3 years from now, not right now with a 34-year-old star where there's a limited window to how many championships we can get out of that. But let's say we trade for a guy right in the middle of his prime in a couple of years and we have a dynasty on our hands. I could understand that impulse, like maybe they feel like Kevin Durant is jumping the gun, which is crazy to fucking say, but maybe. But if they went for it, this is what the roster could potentially look like. Now, looking at this team and imagining them on a basketball floor, I actually find them to be extremely fun because they have a great balance of offense and defense. They do have more defense coming off of that bench, but they have so much lineup versatility with that bench that they can still be quite good and have quite a good balance of that. It doesn't have to be offense or defense, basically, is the point I'm making. KD and Shea is going to be a really fun duo. Two of the most fun players to watch in the league score, in my opinion. The only flaw I could see with this roster is a bit of a lack of playmaking, but I guess that's something that could theoretically be traded for. Pick up Russell Westbrook off of the buyout market. Like, it sounds crazy, but also, why not, you know? Go for it. Fuck it. I don't know, that could be bad. It could not work with him in that role. I don't know, but maybe. It'd be fun. It'd be interesting. You can't argue with me that it'd be interesting. If there's one thing Russell Westbrook sure as shit isn't, it's boring. But now consider the narrative element of this equation. At this point, what Kevin Durant really needs before he retires is a non-Warriors championship. While I am confident that history will look kinder on those rings than we originally did, we all know that's why he went to the Nets. We all know KD cares about people saying his rings are bullshit. The guy needs a lone superstar ring. And to do so returning to the city that he betrayed, which is a bit of a dramatization, but we're writing a fucking story here. To do so that way, in that manner, to bring them their first championship after the years of struggle, the years of pain. Like, dude, I'm really good friends with 2 OKC Thunder fans. They've had it rough, man. Like, to soar so high and to fall so low. They're not having a good time. So to uplift the spirits of Oklahoma in that way, to bring them a championship after the whole city hates you. I mean, what I'm describing to you is LeBron returning to the Cavs, right? Like, it's the same fucking story, but it's a damn good story. So who gives a shit? Like, KD to OKC, man. It's the most fun option. I think it's the most fun basketball team. I think it's the most fun narrative. I think it's one of the best trade packages that the Nets could get back. Starting off your rebuild with Chet Holmgren is certainly something. All of the first round picks you would get. Josh Giddey's a good prospect. Maybe you'd include Trey Mann in that deal, actually. That makes sense. Either way, it's the most fun option. You hear the passion coming out of me? I'm not someone who speaks from the heart very often. I really, really want Kevin Durant in OKC. Or the Bulls. The Bulls would be better. But after that, OKC. Anyways, I think I've made my point. I'm gonna go put this team together in 2K and play with them because I genuinely think it's a super fun team. But that is it. Shout out, or no, that's not it. I have to say shout out to Rudy, you jackass. Dude, I'm on cold medicine and I've had COVID for the last week. I'm kind of out of it, and I can tell as I'm rambling this camera that I'm coming off as very lucid, and that's because I am. But shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music. That's the line.